My name is Grace Topless. I live in Chicago, and I'm a mechanical engineer at BP. My title is maintenance engineer. So I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I went to the University of Alabama, and I have a BS in mechanical engineering from there. I graduated in 2018. I became interested in engineering because I always wanted to be an architect, since I was little. And my dad always, especially as I got into high school, always sort of nudged me toward engineering because architecture can be a little more competitive. It's more creative, it's more design based, and I think he saw the opportunity for women in engineering and technical fields and thought, I should at least give that a try because it would serve me well if I liked it. So I remember being a junior in high school and Googling what is an engineer because I did not know. Neither of my parents are engineers, no siblings who were engineers, not even an uncle. My dad had a good friend from college who had studied mechanical engineering and worked at an automotive company. And I remember asking him, well, I really like physics, so what type of engineering should I pick? And he said he thought mechanical would be a good idea, which is what he had done. So that's how I picked mechanical engineering. So obviously there was not a huge basis there. My thought was, I'll go and try it, and then if I don't like it, there's no penalty for switching. And actually at the University of Alabama, I was able to get a really great scholarship just based on academics. I didn't even have to write an essay to get the scholarship, but I had my tuition paid for, and plus some additional benefits like a stipend. Even if I wasn't completely sold on engineering yet, it made sense just to try it because then I'd get a stipend at least for the first semester. So I went into it feeling like I have no idea if I'm going to end up doing this, and then I just stuck with it. So I had a few internships. My first internship was actually with my dad's friend from college, who the one who had told me to go with mechanical engineering. He still was at that automotive company. It used to be owned by Johnson Controls. And there was kind of an intern fell through at their site. So it was just right place at the right time. They needed to fill a position short notice. And typically going into sophomore year, it's pretty hard to get an internship because you haven't done a lot of classes yet. You haven't had an internship before. So I got pretty lucky that I was able to do that. So while I was there, I looked at injection molding processes, which I hadn't taken any classes in plastics before. So I learned a lot, and I think more than anything, I just learned kind of how corporate America operates. I wasn't at a production facility. It was more of like a technical center where they would run tests and things like that. I feel like I learned a lot and definitely opened my eyes to how different the working world is from academia, which was all I had known for engineering at that point. Then the following summer, I interned at what was my dad's company. So Amway is based in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and my dad has worked there at the corporate office for years. And I was able to get an internship there in a plant that manufactured soft gel capsules like vitamins, which was very unique. I mean, a totally different production environment because everything has to be completely clean because people are going to be consuming your product. So just really interesting, very different company. Automotive is really margin driven and can be really volatile. Like, the market takes a nosedive and you're laying salaried employees off. Whereas Amway was doing more consumer products. So I was in a vitamin manufacturing plant, but they did like shampoo and conditioner and cosmetics. home cleaning products, things like that. And they had a bunch of plants all at that one site. So that was pretty cool because I got to see so many different manufacturing processes all in one place. They had like 10 different products being manufactured all at their headquarters. I applied all over the place to different companies, and I wanted to do something in oil and gas, but I didn't really have much of an expectation that I would hear back from BP because they didn't recruit at my school anymore. I was just putting in an online application. And it ended up that that was by far my best offer. A lot of places, just have a different pace. They don't get back to you very quickly. And BP by far was the fastest moving recruiting that I was working with. So I ended up at a small chemical plant in Charleston, South Carolina. I was the only intern there that summer. Really small plant, very different because there was not a huge corporate presence there. Charleston was a really cool city to live in, and that was, other than going to school in Alabama, that was the first time I had really been on my own, and I did not know anyone in the city at all. I mean, I didn't know anybody in the state. And my coworkers there were so welcoming and totally took me under their wing. Like, I was the only girl in my team there. And it was like being an intern, younger than everybody else, and the only female. I still totally felt like a part of the team. They would invite me to do things with them and their families. Like, really just an awesome, welcoming place to work. BP has been really great. I knew after that first internship, within the first few weeks, I knew there was a different people-focused vibe that I really liked. And for being an old school, old oil company, the diversity and inclusion goals were really ambitious. And it seemed like not only were they putting out great goals, but they were doing things to accomplish that and doing things to further the progress of their women and minorities within the company. I'm doing the same type of work that I was doing in my internship, my last internship at the plant in Charleston. I knew nothing about a refinery, and whiting is huge. Whiting is huge for any plant, but especially compared to where I had been previously. I at least felt a little bit prepared because I had worked at a BP site and had done maintenance engineering type work in the past. So that's where the internship is so helpful. And each one I learned more and more and more about, this is how a company works. This is how you make copies. This is how you find the person who works in the shop. Like, all those little things just add up to every time you go to the next new job, you're more sure of yourself. How did I progress from school to my career? So that was, for me, ended up being pretty easy. It was like once I got the first internship, I had so many doors open to me for the next one and then the one after that. And then once you get that internship before your senior year, then all you have to do is do a good job and they'll bring you back. So of course there are always situations where, demand changes and they end up not having an opening or it's just not a good fit. But that's what really worked well for me. And in the recruiting process, I found the easiest way to get in with a company and have them take you seriously and really strongly consider you for a role, especially an internship, is to talk to people at professional society meetings. So we had a really huge American Society of Mechanical Engineers chapter and Society of Women Engineers. And companies would send a few recruiters to our meetings. They would buy us dinner, and then you could go and talk to the recruiters afterwards. So they'd talk about their rotational program or onboarding or whatever, the opportunities they have, and then you could go and talk to them afterwards. So I would go and talk to the recruiters and say, hey, I'm really interested. What's the process? And how can I how can I give you my resume so that you'll remember and say, oh yeah, I remember Grace. I talked to her at the meeting. And that ended up being the most fruitful way for me to get in contact with these people. And in my current job, my title is a maintenance engineer. What I do is I respond to day-to-day equipment issues and routine maintenance. So what that means is I'm not working on the big project that we're building and is going to be commissioned in 5 years. I'm not working on the big, huge outage necessarily where we're going to shut down a unit and take a bunch of equipment out of service. I've got 2 little units that I'm responsible for. One is the alkylation unit, one is the propylene concentration unit. So they both make gasoline components. And if something breaks, anything fixed equipment, so not a pump, not a compressor, nothing that rotates, but piping, heat exchangers, heaters, towers, valves. If any of those things break and it's a more complicated fix, I come in and try to figure out what happened and how we can prevent it in the future and how should we go about repairing it. This type of metal corroded, what should we use instead? And a lot of the time I'm really an intermediary between, we have a metallurgist who's an expert in all these different types of metals that we use in the plant. And we have a chemical engineer who wants to be able to put a certain rate of product through the unit. And somebody has to facilitate all of these conversations and priorities and say, okay, we might have to compromise here, but we can accomplish this, and we need to prevent a leak here, but we also need to do this. So how can we all come to a solution that we're all happy with? So I think that's the part of my job that I like, is being able to work with other people. I work with a lot of very, very smart, fun, friendly, just great people. And I think it's rewarding, especially to be able to work on something and put together a plan for it. And then in a few weeks to be able to go out and just look and see, hey, it's done. They built it. So it's a fun job. And it's always changing, very fast paced. Never know what's going to break and what you're going to have to do to try and fix it. One group that I found really helpful was Society of Women Engineers. My 4 or 5 very best friends in the world are girls who I met at SWE, Society of Women Engineers, a SWE tea event. So it was like they had a speaker there and you went and had tea and whatever, like lunch or something. And I met a couple girls there who became my best friends in college, and they were all mechanical engineers. So there were not very many women in mechanical engineering at all. So that was like a lifeline. That was in my second semester of college. So I was getting more into my actual mechanical engineering classes. And really, I was like, I just didn't see a whole lot of people who looked like me. Even if you're not an active member in those things, even if you're not on their leadership panel, just go to the events and then you'll meet people. And then the more your community is established in your major, the easier it is to find resources and find people to work on homework together with, talk about internships. People will have connections to things. That was probably one of the best things I did in my whole college career was just to go to that one event where I met a fantastic group of girls. Engineering is one of the few careers where you can get a 4-year degree, have a great job, and be financially stable and not need a graduate degree. You don't need any more schooling. So I could, if I wanted to, I could go and get my MBA, or I could get a master's or a PhD in engineering, but I don't really need to. So when I graduated, I was done. I could go directly into the workforce. Some majors you can't do that, or it's a lot harder. You really need the additional qualification to be able to go into the workforce. So that was such a blessing, because by the time I got out of school, I was like, I am done. I want to work. I want to make money. Maybe one day I'll get an MBA. But for now, it's huge return on investment. I think that a lot of people don't go for it because they just think, well, I'm not good at it. I can't do it. And it's like, it's the cliche, right? If you think you can't, then you can't. And I think it's so true with how a lot of girls view STEM and engineering. There's no, I don't care who you are, not even just that you're a girl. If you think you're bad at something, it's up to you if you want to improve. There's a world of resources out there. There's the internet. There are people like, people like me who would take you under their wing, and all you have to do is try and ask for help. So I think if you're interested, just go for it. See what happens. If it's not right, if it's not the right fit, then who cares? Nothing is lost, especially in college. It's a lot harder to decide you want to try engineering after a few years or months in school than it is to go the other direction. And even in the workforce, if you don't love engineering, it's a lot of the time there's a huge demand for women in engineering or technical fields. So a lot of the time it's easier to get your foot in the door with engineering or something technical. And then 5 years down the line, if you say, I want to do marketing or PR or HR, you're already there, and it's a lot easier to move into that than I think sometimes it is to get hired in those roles in the first place. So if you just give it a try, I think it's a great spot to start your career out, and there are a lot of doors opened for you. I think that's it for me. I hope this is helpful. If you need anything else, just let me know. I'm happy to help, and thanks for the opportunity.